Hello, I'm Gloria Macarenko. I'm so glad you're with us as we celebrate what makes our city great. This is Our Vancouver. Coming up, traditions continue. The Go Ballet offers the Nutcracker for you to watch online. And budding chefs at the Pacific Culinary Arts Institute are offering a holiday home meal. But first, capturing BC's beauty one image at a time. Now, she was born in Italy, but has a real eye and heart for British Columbia. Daria Cipriani is the photographer and author of two beautiful books, A Journey Home and The Dream Catcher. Daria, hello and welcome.
Well, hello, and thank you for having me.
Now, A Journey Home, it captures the carving of the reconciliation pole in Haida Gwaii, and that pole now stands at UBC. How did all that come about?
Well, it was just pure coincidence, and I guess that totem pole was on my path. I was in Haida Gwaii taking a walk, and all of a sudden I see these people busy doing the carving. And after tiptoeing for 2 minutes, they were the most welcome people I can remember. I asked if I could take picture. They let me do it. They told me the story, and it was really an amazing experience. I can never forget the generosity of those people.
No, you really captured not a moment, but several moments in your book. And I guess it's had a lasting effect because I'd like to hear more about how this experience has really turned you into an advocate for education about residential schools and reconciliation.
Well, I realized how little I knew as an adult of the residential school. And for me, this is such an important part of Canadian history. And how could I be a Canadian citizen and not know about it? And then I thought that the best way will be to tell that story to children because it's a story about children. And that was the idea of trying to put it in simple words, illustrating by photographs, and making children aware, even though in a kind of soft way, that these things happens, they should not happen, and how we can do and educate them in order that they are aware, and also they recognize in the other people, in the other children, in the First Nation children, what was done to them, and have the right consideration for it. It's just not talking about it, but let's do something about it. So this book is just my little gift to honor those children and make our children aware. There is no point in hiding anything. History, it's history. We cannot change it, but we can certainly make it better.
For sure. Now, and why do you think it's important to sort of underscore those messages with images?
Because images are more immediate. I think when you look at them, you see, actually, I think that the carver, they did such an incredible job taking the spirits out of that tree that you can actually see. I was really touched by the way they were carving. It was almost like they were caressing the face as they were coming out. So image to me is that what it should transmit a feeling. I believe that's the scope of photography, right? It just, you don't photograph just to take a picture or a memo. It's just to say something, to give the message that the artists want you to give. Reading that moment is what it's important to me.
Well, and you're very sparse with your words, and you've decided to do this in English, French, and Italian. Why was that?
Well, because in my dream, in my mind was that the world should know, it's not just a Canadian question. This situation happens worldwide. And so I didn't have a common language so everybody could read it, not just in Canada. So that was my choice.
Well, and you raised money from this beautiful book for a Haida group called Rediscovery. What does that group do?
Oh, well, it's an incredible organization which helps younger people, teenagers, which have social issues and problems, to reconnect with their own culture, reconnect to their own roots. And the elders are their guide, which I think it's fantastic. You know, in a society where elders are kind of put aside and considered not so worthy, the fact that that wisdom and that knowledge is passed on, I think it can be really a great assets that we should look and kind of dive more into it, because there is so much.
Yeah, you're right. It's several layers deep. So that's a journey home, but you've also come up with the dream catcher. What's your vision behind this book?
Well, the Dreamcatcher is a book for children, but I always like to say it's a book that children should read to adults. The book was written during COVID. I was supposed to go to Italy and I couldn't go, so I stayed in Vancouver. And I had all this time, which usually I don't have because I'm traveling all the time. And so I thought, wow, okay, I'm here. Let's see what is in Vancouver that it's important right now. And I wanted to I started taking photographs, and then I started telling the story in my own mind, like I could tell it to my granddaughter. What did you see today? Well, I saw the raccoon. I started giving names. And then I tried to come up with a story, which is a tale of our city seen from the perspective of the animals. And in the city, the children are not there anymore. They're safe on planet Limbo. And there are only few elders left, which are the custodian of the memory of the world. And there is an older woman, an elder, who has a dream. She wants to bring the children back to the planet. But to do that, she needs the help of the animal. The animals know how bad humans have been in the past to nature, to the animals, so are not willing to help.
And Daria, it's so appropriate that you're giving the proceeds from the Dreamcatcher to BC Children's Hospital too. Thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
For a chance to win one of Daria Cipriani's books, email ourvancouver@cbc.ca. That's ourvancouver@cbc.ca, and put book giveaway in the subject line. Good luck.
This is our Vancouver.
All right, it's time for one of our favorite features. This is when we get to showcase a number of the photographs sent in by you, our audience. First, Broden Simpson was on a walk near the Cleveland Dam and saw this majestic eagle topping a tree. Thank you so much for sending that in, Broden. Birds and birders are out in abundance around Burnaby Lake these days too. Bikram Rijal captured this feathered friend. Thank you so much for that. And finally, look at that snow. This is what Naomi Moore saw while snowshoeing on Mount Seymour last week. What a great image. Thank you so much, Naomi. Gets us in the mood for winter. And do send us more. Just email your photographs to us, bcphotos@cbc.ca. That's bcphotos@cbc.ca. Now, how many of you are now working from home? Is the office as we know it over? Well, it turns out the pandemic is not the first time people considered this question. Yute Lee explores the future of the traditional workplace.
There we go.
Hey DJ, nice headphones.
You're so funny.
Hey guys, don't mind me, just making dinner.
No worries. So thanks for being on this call, guys. We gotta think of an intro for this video. Anyone have any thoughts? Yute, you have to unmute yourself. No. Okay. Anyone else? Fun, snappy intro ideas?
Well, actually, I was just thinking last night that we could... No, you go. You go first. So like I was saying,
So I was wondering what sort of demographic we were hoping to achieve here. In my humble opinion, I think
Guys, during the pandemic, we've heard about the essentials, groceries, walking, tigers. I want to talk about everything else, what we've deemed the non-essentials. With this pandemic, a lot of us are now working from home. And sure, it took some time for everyone to figure out how to unmute on Zoom and acknowledge that Slack exists, but the world didn't end. Well, at least not yet. In fact, many are thinking about making this change permanent. Facebook, Shopify, Zillow, and Twitter are making plans to let employees work from home forever. If you're lucky enough to have a job right now, you might be having a similar conversation. So, is the office obsolete? Well, I looked into it, and it's actually not the first time we've had this debate. Before COVID-19, before Slack, even before Skype, we had the OPEC oil crisis of 1973. What happened? More international politics than I care to get into, which led to gas being in really short supply in North America. That gas powered the cars that took the majority of North Americans to work and back. Without it, people couldn't get to their offices. At the same time, there were growing concerns that all these cars weren't so great for the environment anyways. That got people thinking. Instead of moving workers from their homes to the office, what if we move the office to their homes? Yes, employees could just work from their homes. No cars, gas, or pollution necessary. Just telephones to stay in touch. They called it telecommuting. On top of that, companies like IBM realized there were other benefits to remote work beyond helping the environment and sticking it to big oil. It was a way to hire talent from anywhere, not just the neighborhoods near their offices. It also, of course, meant saving office space, which meant saving money. By 2009, 40% of IBM's employees didn't work out of an office, which, according to the company, meant saving about $100 million every year. Meanwhile, our society changed. The 1970s saw a surge of women entering the workforce. The nuclear family became less and less relevant, and it became normal for both spouses to be employed. Remote work began to be seen as a way to provide flexibility for households balancing families along with their careers. And over the years, many found remote work to be helpful for their work as well. It turns out the office can actually be a bit distracting. There are pointless meetings, noisy coworkers, and office politics. Working from home allows you to choose when and how you work, and there are very compelling studies suggesting that this may help you focus better and get more done. And I can't overstate this, the growing popularity of remote work was ultimately possible because of huge transformative advances in technology that made our work devices more portable, more affordable, and more connected than ever before. When people first thought of remote work in the 1970s, we had telephones, typewriters, and file cabinets. Now, we have smartphones, laptops, and the frickin' internet. So, to recap, technological and societal changes over the past half-century have made working from home more feasible while promising autonomy and flexibility. But at the same time, the office evolved and stayed relevant by emphasizing collaboration, innovation, and community. But I think the question still remains. What kind of environment is better for, work? What are the spaces that make us more productive, more creative, and happier in our jobs? Well, it turns out that's a much more difficult question to answer. Trust me, we tried. There are countless studies about remote work and offices, but it's pretty much impossible to combine them into any one conclusion. If anything, they just demonstrate how our work is bewilderingly diverse and complex. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. So if you're wondering whether you should work from home or an office after this pandemic, the key is to approach that question with nuance. First, it really depends on the type of work you're doing. If your job frequently depends on working with others, the office may be the easiest, most reliable place for communicating with your team. But if your work is mostly self-driven with long to-do lists and the occasional meeting, the office might just be a distraction. Second, working from home or the office doesn't have to be an all or nothing conversation. You can do a bit of both, and in theory, get the benefits of both. If the pandemic has taught us anything, being forced into only one kind of workspace kind of sucks. Third, we're all different, and the way we want to relate to our work is different. Some people really like to connect with their colleagues face to face and appreciate how the office keeps work and life separate. Others prefer working independently and want their jobs to fit more seamlessly around their personal lives. Finally, we should remember that the physical spaces we work in are just a small aspect of our work. In fact, I find a lot of the values we associate with our workspaces have much more to do with our work culture. For example, Mark Zuckerberg says he wanted Facebook to have an open office because
we want to create this very open and transparent culture in our company where, everyone can see what everyone else is working on.
But do glass walls really make a transparent company? In the same way, just adding collaborative furniture to your office doesn't guarantee collaboration. And working from home doesn't guarantee autonomy if you're being dragged into a Zoom call every 30 minutes. All this is to say, the pandemic hasn't made the office obsolete. It's just reignited a decades-long debate on how and where we do our best work, whether it's in the boardroom or your bedroom. All right.
Coming up, Canadian glaciers are thicker than once thought, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll last longer. Johanna Wagstaff will explain right after the break.
Glaciers are an iconic part of Canadian heritage. And while we now know they're blinking out at an alarming rate because of climate change, there's still a lot we don't know about them. Apparently, how thick our glaciers actually are. New research led by University of Northern British Columbia scientists, supported by PICS, found that the glaciers in Canada's Columbia River Basin are on average 38% thicker than previously believed.
So if you want to know how a glacier is flowing, you need to know how thick it is, because the thickness and the slope together control how glaciers flow down the mountainside. So originally, that's what we set out to look at. And then we compared them to some previous model estimates. And we weren't surprised that they differ, but we were surprised by how much they differed.
I mean, collecting data on our glaciers isn't exactly the easiest. The team used ice-penetrating radar to measure ice thickness on 5 glaciers in BC's Columbia Mountains. And while you might think more ice means they might have more time to stick around, that's not necessarily the case.
It's a nice surprise to find out we have a little more ice to deal with, but the long-term fate is really has been sealed by us and greenhouse gas emissions. One of the things we do as glaciologists is much like meteorologists. We go out and we collect real observations. They allow us to better inform and improve models going forward.
At current rates of glacier mass loss for this region, studies still show the glaciers will disappear from the basin in 65 to 80 years.
If you think about a typical mountain watershed in British Columbia, by and large, most of the surface runoff is generated from the winter snow until sort of late summer, at which point those glaciers or those watersheds that contain glaciers will start to see sort of the runoff from the glaciers themselves starting to supplement that flow. And so if the glaciers aren't there, of course, we have a deficit.
Having more detailed observations about the dimensions of our precious but disappearing glaciers means more accurate models about these very important glacier cycles that we all rely on, whether we realize it or not.
My favorite thing is to be in the mountains. And so it's really special studying them. I keep it positive, but it is depressing. I mean, even studying like the glaciers Brian and I have been studying in the Columbia Mountains, it's remarkable how much they've changed just in the 6 years that I've been studying them. There are certain routes you can't take any longer. There's certain places you used to step on the glacier that now there's a 10 plus meter cliff that you'd have to rappel off to get down to the glacier. So there's, a lot of the changes are very visceral.
So rather than blinking out as we once thought, perhaps our Canadian glaciers are going to go out with a bang, so to speak. The more we know about them, the more we'll miss them. And now, you're Science Smart. If you have a science question on your mind, send me a tweet and I'll try to get it answered.
Well, the way the pandemic is going, it looks as if extended families and friends in BC will not be getting together in person for big feasts this December. So for those who don't want to miss out on turkey dinner with all the fixings, Granville Island's Culinary School has some options for you. And Jennifer Kim is the chef and manager of the Blue Hat Bakery Cafe at the Pacific Institute of Culinary Arts. Jennifer, hello there.
Hello, Gloria. Thanks for having me.
Well, things look so festive and yummy over where you are. Just why don't we start with some of the holiday classes that you're offering up this year?
We have artisan bread classes for festive seasons. We also have pasta classes. We also have the wine classes going on. And we also have the pickling and fermentation for people who are looking for gifts for relatives, for whoever, this Saturday.
Okay. What would you recommend for a beginner chef, for example?
For beginner chef, I think the pickling and fermentation class is pretty easy to follow. It's just going to be a lot of knowledgeable, and then you get to take home souvenir bags of jars of pickles. So I think it's pretty good for a beginner's class.
Okay, well, we mentioned that a lot of people, even people who live alone, aren't going to be able to get together with everyone they normally would over the winter holidays. So what about the holiday dinners that you're offering as, to-go packages?
Yes, so for this year, because we can't do big family gatherings, we put together a easy takeaway Christmas dinner for turkey and for beef lovers out there. So for turkey dinners, it's $45, and for beef, it's $55. They're packaged individually, or if they wanted to be packaged for 4 people, we can do that as well. What's good about is they're all able to package all individually. So, if you're single and you're home alone for Christmas, then you can do that as well.
Something for everyone. Can we get in a little closer there and see what's in the turkey package?
Yeah, of course. So here we have for the turkey, it's citrus brined. We brine it for 48 hours and then beautifully roasted. We also have some brown butter, parsnip and carrots, some beans, some mashed potato, kale salads. Of course, we have our stuffing. Our stuffing is chestnut stuffing. The bread is also made in house as well.
That looks phenomenal. And you don't have to spend all day in the kitchen. You can just enjoy
Exactly.
it. Now, Jennifer, do you have one bit of advice for someone who may be attempting to make their holiday dinner for maybe the first time this year?
I know a lot of people have tried, starting their sourdough packages over the quarantine periods. I think my best advice is just starting it from wherever. It's very hard when you're trying to manage, should I start this first or should I start this first? But at the end of the day, once you start cooking your festive meals or wherever, it's just, it'll just give you that push to start.
Okay, just dive in there. I get it.
Exactly,
or pick up the phone and call the Blue Hat Bakery Cafe.
Exactly. Or if you end up burning everything, just call us and we'll do all the work for you.
Oh, enjoy the festive season, Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This is our Vancouver.
The second wave of the pandemic has postponed most events from taking place in person, but the online world is full of things to see and experience. The Dance Center presents Tomo Arts, joining forces with Nishikawa Kayo, artistic director of Burnaby's Satsuki Kai. Their performance happens daily until December 10th. And you can pay what you can. To get the link to the show, just go to the Dance Center's website for detail.
We were looking forward.
And on December 4th, join us virtually for special broadcasts and digital meet and greets with your favorite CBC British Columbia hosts, and donate to Food Banks BC from the comfort of your own home. Food Bank Day continues with online activities for you to engage in. And of course, we will be broadcasting and streaming special programming to encourage your kindness. So go to our website for all the details.
Hey, I'm Grant Lawrence from CBC Music. Back in 2019, a Nigerian-Canadian hip-hop artist named Chope won Searchlight. That's our yearly hunt for Canada's best undiscovered talent. Chope won it all on the strength of this song.
Them a chat all day, man, I care none matter what they say. My bag got arranged this year, baby, please don't leave me, oh. Come past my way, come past my town. come past my way.
That is Come With It, Chopay's Searchlight-winning song from 2019. Chopay currently lives in Toronto, though he came to Canada with his family from Lagos, Nigeria 20 years ago when Chopay was just 11 years old. His first memories of Canada? Really cold, really clean. Years later, Chopay left a potential career in medicine to pursue music. And he has since toured various parts of the globe, including North America, Europe, and Africa. After he won Searchlight, Chopay also played at our very own CBC Music Festival in Toronto.
What it's gonna be? 89 rounds over all of these. Lands on lands, now you call on. Hey, we ain't even seen in a while. You ain't even give me no time. How you gonna say that I'm yours when you leave for your scores? You don't text, tweet, speak. I will live on this.
Chopay's other prizes for winning Searchlight included a recording session at the National Music Centre in Calgary and a coveted seat at the Juno Masterclass in Toronto. This fall, Chopay has just dropped an awesome new single called Rikiki that mines the brilliant rhythms, beats, and vocal styles of his native Nigeria.
Oh, I hear you on yarn like you know me pass. Yeah, you know fire, you just know too bash. How you go flex like you got G-Pass? As in why you go vex, you be dominas. Go and tell him I am not the one. No, sir. I'm more bala, you could run. I'm a day chop mouse for the fun, so. Sorry, Lord, to be fair, I'm a boy. Hey, I know, give them face me. I just run my race, go. Go from state to state, I'm a love, I know they chase. Sun up, sun low, won't feel me.
A really joyous sound there from Chopay, originally from Lagos, Nigeria, now of Toronto. He's our Searchlight winner from 2019. He's only getting better. That's his best single yet. And that tune is all about, in Chopay's words, bridging his Western identity with the motherland of Africa. It's also about finding personal confidence, courage, and strength, and blocking out the negative. Rikiki by Chopay is the tune that you need to add to your Get Up and Dance playlist for this week. I'm Grant Lawrence, host of the CBC Music Top 20. Stay safe, support Canadian music, and I'll check in with you again next week.
Coming up, a Surrey teen is pushing for changes at school so she and others can feel safe. You are watching Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. Well, Heilula Heilu is a teen in Surrey. As a Black girl, she doesn't always feel safe at school. And she told CBC Kids News how she's looking to change that.
Yes, sir. No, sir. Hands visible, don't talk back. Speak slow. Pretend that you aren't smarter than them. Dumb down and give them whatever they ask for.
Hello, my name is Haulia Hailu. I'm 17 years old. I live in Surrey, BC, but I go to school in Burnaby. The right I'm fighting for is safe education emotionally for people who don't feel very represented in our schools. I just wish there was no racism in schools. Anybody that feels like the minority can assure you they've had these moments throughout their schooling career that just made them feel unsafe or was just racist. Imagine you have a jar and it has like a point where it can be full, and microaggressions are just like little raindrops that like kind of keep filling up until like you just feel overwhelmed. Microaggressions can be like little things, little comments that are specifically just keep building up and building up until your jar overflows. Examples I found are I have hair that is very big and loud, and throughout my life, I've had straight hair, curly hair, braids, and especially when I have my afro out, I'll have people commenting about, oh, why do you choose to wear it like that, with like that tone of, oh, why you have it like that? Oh, maybe you should straighten it when you're about to go to that job interview. Oh, can I touch it? Like, please, can I touch it? Or just touching it without asking, and it kind of fills up in your jar until I just feel overwhelmed and angry.
16-year-old Hallelujah Hailu says she has faced racism in public school for a long time. and says having police officers in her schools only contributes to that. She wrote a letter to the Burnaby Now saying, "If you feel reassured by a badge and a gun, that is a privilege that I wish I could have."
I saw that my school wasn't taking serious some things that I found were racist. And that paired with police officers in schools that were coming in with their full armor, like as a position to be like education resources, didn't make me feel safe because historically police have not always treated everybody equally. So I stepped up. I talked to members of my school board. I talked to some people who are in like place of leadership and tried to explain my perspective as a young woman of color. And that's where I kind of started activism at this front recently.
Now, a crowd of hundreds have gathered here, many watching intently, many of them high school aged, listening to some of the speakers that are also high school aged. The big message here is to end systemic racism in schools.
Youth are our future, for better or for worse. And if we don't address this, we have the next generation of police officers, doctors, lawyers, all of these people who are going into very important places in the world, not being able to address bias. Kids have so much voice and power, but I wish they didn't need to stand up and ask for very, very basic things.
Go Ballet has been a mainstay in Vancouver for more than 40 years. Well, it's usually at this time of year the company would be busy preparing for its marquee event, the Nutcracker. Well, as our Marie Seidler tells us, this year they're putting on a new spin on the classic Christmas tale.
Okay, stand by. Settle, quiet, please. Ready, and action.
It's not unusual for the Go Ballet studios on Main Street to be busy at this time of year, but the cameras, cast, and crew, that's something new. This year, Go Ballet is giving Tchaikovsky's classic Christmas tale a reboot, all thanks to COVID-19.
I look forward to seeing this new way of sharing the Christmas magic, if you will, because I think we're all due for some motivation and some hope in our lives.
For more than 10 years, Go Ballet's production of The Nutcracker has been a must-see performance in Metro Vancouver. Normally, thousands of people would fill the Queen Elizabeth Theatre in December, but pandemic restrictions have made that impossible. Instead, the company is putting together a filmed version that will stream online for free for 2 weeks. That's not all that's changing. Go Ballet's director has given the story a pandemic twist.
My idea is to bring some of the present, tie it into the grandeur and the traditions of Nutcracker of the past, and then, have a story of resilience and hope and look to the future.
This year's adaptation is about a young man who has given up dancing. The Nutcracker lures him back in. It's a story that's very familiar for the production's principal dancer.
I'm feeling so lucky to have gotten this role. I feel like a lot of dancers have gotten quite low with this whole pandemic, and to be able to come out and make a movie about something so hopeful it's really fun.
Alex Stonehouse returned to dance after a 7-year hiatus. He joined Go Ballet's youth ensemble this fall, and this is his first performance this year.
For organizations like Go Ballet, making it through this pandemic is about more than just survival. It's about recognizing the importance of art for the community and those who participate in it.
It draws people, it draws communities, it draws commonalities together. Just because we can't do it now doesn't mean that we can't do it forever. And as an artist, as a mentor, we need to keep thinking of that and having that to hang on to for the future.
Marie Seidler, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, for now, uncertainty remains over where BC's COVID-19 trajectory is going to go. So the next couple of weeks are really going to determine how we're going to be able to spend the holidays. And as Liam Britton tells us, that uncertainty is affecting some places that are holiday fixtures.
A photo with Santa is a long-standing Christmas tradition for little ones.
Have you been a good boy this year?
of all species.
What would you like for Christmas?
Santa Bob Christoffoli was getting ready for a pet photo day at Pets 'n Us in Delta.
We've had ducks, we've had a turtle, we've had ferrets, cats, you name it. If you've got a pet, bring it here.
But that was the Christmas past. In the Christmas present, this event is canceled in light of new public health orders.
We need to take more action.
And recent surges of COVID-19 case numbers in BC.
We made the very difficult decision to call off a 26-year tradition. Would have been 26 years this year.
Dealing with such uncertainty isn't usually taught in Santa school. And yes, that is a real thing. Rosamond Watson runs one in West Vancouver. She also books Santas through her company, Hire a Santa, mostly for private events and parties.
Normally, this time of the year, we would already be pretty much sold out for the season. But because of COVID, it's been really bad.
In BC, some malls are still offering photos with Santa. For humans. But others, like Pacific Centre in Vancouver, Richmond Centre, and Coquitlam Centre, have called off their plans. Others are still making up their minds, and some simply haven't said. For now, Brentwood Town Centre Mall in Burnaby is offering photos. Santa Michael McCain said things will be different, but the changes are necessary.
I'm comfortable with what we've done. You know, I would say that a visit with Santa Claus at Brentwood is going to be as safe and as easy as picking up a mobile order at your neighborhood Starbucks.
Some are offering virtual photo sessions with Santa this year, and Pets 'n Us in Delta is trying to figure out a way to do just that.
The show must go on. It's just going to be different yet again.
And that's good news for those who find meeting Santa a treat. Liam Britton, CBC News, Vancouver.
It's a pretty big piece.
Coming up, a touching tribute to one of Gastown's most loved characters. Hello there and welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. Now, you may have never heard the name Kenny Grano, but in Gastown, he was known as the unofficial mayor. For decades, he worked out of the OK Boot Corral, selling cowboy boots and hats and chatting up tourists and locals alike. Well, Kenny died recently, and as our Deborah Goebel is finding out, he left behind an awful lot of friends.
There are characters living among us. Individuals who don't quite fit the norm. Just those people in your neighborhood you might call quirky. Characters like Kenny Grano.
He had snakeskin cowboy boots, so he'd always be wearing those.
And even if you didn't know him, if you walked by the OK Corral boot shop on Carroll Street, you'd probably recognize him.
He's kind of like the mayor of Gastown, wouldn't you say? Yeah, so there's going to be a lot. I've never seen a guy that had so many friends.
For 25 years he worked here. He sold boots to movie stars and cowboys, dealers and debutantes.
He was 80 years old and was still working and loved working and talking to people.
Not even COVID could get him down.
He loved the people that come in.
But on Friday, the unofficial mayor of Gastown died.
You knew you were down, he would find a way to pick you up. Yeah, he's a great guy. I'm going to miss him terribly.
Because Kenny was the kind of man who squeezed every moment of joy out of life. Gastown was just his third act. A long time ago, he was a music producer.
He did the first record for Loretta Lynn. I think it was called The Honky Tonk Girl.
Country music was his first love, but it was a friendly chat in front of the store or over a coffee that defined him.
If he knew you really well, he'd insult you. You know, one of the guys came by this morning and, you know, missed Kenny. Kenny would call him Porky Pig, right? He's kind of a big guy.
He was always bugging me about my gut and said a few other things that we can't put on air.
Kenny Grano wasn't a celebrity. He didn't win any awards or invent a cure for some awful disease. But like so many people who just go about living their life day by day, his death has had a huge impact on this neighborhood.
These people are the heart of the community. When you come into a community, it doesn't matter whether it's a barber shop, if guys work there for 60 years, they sort of become part of the community and everybody knows them.
Kenny's probably up there laughing at me, saying, you know, what are you crying for? He says, I'm happy as I can be. At least I'm home now.
Deborah Goebel, CBC News, Vancouver.
30 years ago this fall, the CBC brought someone with a disease many people feared into the homes of British Columbians. The Dr. Peter AIDS Diaries were a series of weekly broadcasts featuring Dr. Peter Jepson Young as he documented living and dying with AIDS. The diaries went on to be nominated for an Academy Award and a source of great pride for Dr. Peter's mother, Shirley Young. Well, we caught up with Shirley to hear how she's been carrying on her son's legacy.
The energy that is me will not be lost.
Peter Jepson Young, Dr. Peter to his TV audience, was determined to show the human face of AIDS. Each week, for 111 weeks, Dr. Peter laid bare the life of a person with AIDS. The CBC News series captured the last 2 years of Peter's life, from 1990 to 92.
When Peter was first diagnosed with AIDS, we were just devastated. I mean, this is a terrible pandemic we're living in now, but that was just devastating. And no one knew how it was transmitted, and it was also very deadly. Life expectancy was only a matter of months. So we thought, well, we'll write our friends, tell them what's happening, and then we'll just go away for a couple of weeks. And that's what we did. Well, I have to tell you, when we got home, we could hardly open that door. There were so many letters. And it chokes me to remember, they were so beautiful. Everyone, absolutely without exception, supported us. And we're proud of Peter that he was going to go on CBC and talk about it. So it started our healing process then.
It's getting to be a real struggle. For 2 years, Dr. Peter talked openly about dying. In November 1992, Dr. Peter died. He was 35.
Do you feel he gave a gift to you?
Yeah, he did. If it weren't for him, I probably would have only known the dry facts about AIDS. But because of him, I knew, hey, this is real. Actually exists. People are getting this. It's not just out of a book.
What gift did he give you?
Hope, courage. He certainly helped me.
Peter had a mission in life. His mission was to help people with AIDS. And our mission was to carry on his legacy. And that's what we've tried to do.
How are you today?
I'm good, how are you? When the pandemic is over, I'll be back volunteering. I volunteer once a week to serve a meal and visit with the participants and hug them and share their stories. Because I love them, they're wonderful people. Yeah, that's what we do.
Ben Nelms is CBC Vancouver's photographer, and his images show so much emotion. They just give us a deeper perspective into what's happening in our city. Here's a sample of what he saw this week. And that's all for our Vancouver for this week. I hope you can join me weekday afternoons on CBC Radio 1 for On the Coast. Goodbye for now.